Chef, would you be preferably called Chef Bayless or Chef Rick? How do you like it?
I will answer to pretty much anything that you call me, and whatever you feel comfortable with, I'm comfortable with. Okay. You can just call me Rick too. That would work.
We'll start with Chef Rick first.
Okay.
And after you like me a little bit, we'll move to Rick. So,
okay.
So Chef Rick, is it a good day for you so far? I know you've been recovering from shoulder surgery.
I just came back from a physical therapy, which is not fun at all. So this day has not started very well for me, but I know I have to go through this to get to the good stuff. That's where I'm headed. So I'm going to do it.
Totally. Well, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. Long time awareness of you and what it is that you do. And I understand you have a new restaurant opening up next week. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. It's Tortasso. So I would say maybe 10 years ago or so, we put these places in at O'Hare Airport that just really featured tortas, very small menu, and everything, made to order, and everything like full flavored, which is not usually what you get at an airport. And they were really successful. And we sort of let that just kind of hang out there for a while. And then several years ago, we just decided that we really wanted to do something more with that idea, and to do a fast casual kind of restaurant that's a little bit more than just in the same way that we give you more than what you expect at an airport. We thought we could give you more than what you expect at a fast casual place. And so we started working on this idea that started with the guts of what we do at the airport, and then but make it into a freestanding place that those places are all licensed, because everything has to be run by HMS Host out there. So we have our team of people that do all the quality assurance and training and all that sort of stuff for the airport locations. But we decided we wanted to boost that up and really rethink the whole concept and see what we could do to make a sort of fast casual plus kind of place. And so we came up with Tortasso, and we opened the first one at Willis Tower here 6 weeks to the day before we were all shut down for the pandemic. So we still have no idea if that's going to work or not. All I know is that building is still at 15% occupancy, and so we don't have a lot of people coming by there. But we're doing fine, and we really believe in it. So we had always had in the back of our minds that our second place that we wanted to bring Tortasso would be to New York, and so we just thought, the Chicago Loop, which is the other obvious place for us to put more Tortassos, is not back yet, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Manhattan. And so we thought, let's look at a place in Manhattan. And so we found this place near 25th and Broadway in Nomad that we fell in love with. We felt like that it was the right demographic, the right neighborhood for us to put down our first flag there. And so literally the week before the pandemic hit, we signed that lease. So it's taken us a long time to get this place up and running, just because we didn't know what was going to happen. Everybody just kind of went on hiatus for a little bit to try to figure things out. So we're very excited because we're sort of moved into a different part of the pandemic, if you will. I'm not saying we're out of it, but at least we're at a place where now we feel like that we can start to build some stuff. And so on Monday, we're going to be opening to the public. I've been there training and, all that sort of stuff. Back in Chicago right now, but I'm coming back this weekend. And I'm really excited about it, because I think that the whole idea of a fast casual place fits a lot of needs for people these days, because you could treat us just as your kind of takeout place and order online and come in and pick stuff up. But I'm a real believer in hospitality, and that sort of takeout model doesn't satisfy me very much. I feel like that we also can be much more than that. And we need to offer places where people can come together. And, not everybody has the money or the desire to spend a lot of money on dinner, but we might want to meet our friends, and we might want to have a really good margarita made with fresh squeezed lime juice, and, a good tequila that's made with 100% agave, and, stuff like that. And so our goal with with Tortasso is to be really very flexible and to say that we can take care of a lot of your needs. Okay, we're not a fine
Sure.
dining sit down place, but we are very transparent about our ingredients, which to me, I've always been transparent about my ingredients even before it was something that you talked about. People
Right.
used to come into our restaurants on Clark Street here in Chicago and say like, why are you telling us where all these foods are from? And it's like, to me, because I lived in Mexico for a long time, and everybody talks about where the food is from,
Right.
because it's not just a commodity that you're doing something to, but it's something that's an expression of people and terrain and history and all that sort of stuff. And so for me, it was really it's always been really important to talk about the source of our ingredients, and a lot of fast casual doesn't do that very much, and I think it should be done always, because especially if you're going to rely on us to for a lot of your nutrition, then I want you to know that we are really paying attention to where your food is coming from, and
Mhm.
we're paying attention to supporting people that we want to support. I mean, we're not just out there purchasing the cheapest stuff that we can so that we can make the most money, but we're out there purchasing the best ingredients so that you can feel comfortable eating this stuff on a regular basis. And to me, that is like when we opened Shoko, which was 12 years ago this last week, which does tortas also. But when we opened Shoko, it's kind of a weird thing to think about putting three restaurants stuck together on one street. But we kept saying, it's like we had Frontera, which is sort of upscale casual restaurant, but a sit-down place with really good
Right.
service. And then we have Topolobampo, which is high-end fine dining. But I kept saying there's so many people working in this restaurant that can't afford either one of those. I mean, working in this neighborhood that can't afford either one of those
Yeah.
places. And I said, we're going to use the same great ingredients that we're using in Frontera and in Topolobampo, and we're just going to do it in a simpler format. And so I wanted to be very very sensitive, because we can't give away our food, because we're working with good ingredients. But I mean,
Right.
give away, we're not going to do it super cheap. Okay, it's not all about being cheap. And I said, so we want to make sure that there's plenty of amenities that can attract a really great crowd of people that can appreciate the quality of what we're doing, but just don't have the money to spend on the other places that we have here. And that is really our philosophy at Tortasso too.
And you mentioned 25th and Broadway, not too far, where you'll be giving a master class next month. I have
That's
that
correct. Right.
What should be expected from your master class?
So, I did something sort of similar to this a few years ago down at ICE, but for another group of people. Oh, you know what? It was the International Association of Culinary Professionals. It was a fundraiser for them. And I've known the people down at ICE forever, and they have a really lovely facility. And they wanted me to do this thing for the IACP. And I said, oh, that'll be good, as long as we can have a plenty of room for people to actually get their hands dirty. And so I did it, and it was really successful. And I felt like people walked away from that with a really great amount of knowledge, because it's kind of a funny thing to talk about, but with the popularity of tacos right now, I
Mhm.
think that the biggest problem with talking about tacos, and even worse about making tacos in your house, is that most of the time the tortillas are just terrible. And so
Yes.
lots of people say, it's like, well, oh, I'd never get a corn tortilla because they're just like, taste like the cardboard wrapper that they're in or whatever. And yeah, that's true, because what they're getting is mostly stale tortillas that are in big grocery stores. And of course, if you go to a Mexican market, then you're much more likely to get tortillas that are just made, and you can get them home and rewarm them, and they're going to be great. But that's not most people's experience. And so a lot of people just tell me, oh, I never use corn tortillas, and so I only do flour tortillas. And that that upsets me because Mexican cuisine is the cuisine of corn. It's all based on corn, and people need to know how to make good corn tortillas. So that's what I'm really going to teach in this thing, so that people can have their Taco Tuesdays or whatever they want to call it, and they can actually have some really good tortillas to wrap around those delicious fillings that they're making. So I'm going to do a sort of a master class that's going to be, as I call it, the two most important food groups, tacos and tequila. And we are going to do a master class in how to make a real margarita. Um, you can do inventive and fun margaritas and stuff like that, but you never can do them well unless you actually know how to make a good one, a good base one. And so I'm going to go through the basics of that, and how to choose the ingredients and what role each ingredient plays. Then I'm going to teach people how to make the tortillas. And then a couple of simple fillings that you can turn to at a moment's notice, kind of thing. So that's kind of where we are with all of that. I'm also going to do a really simple guacamole that is sort of like guacamole on the fly. So if you want to make guacamole and you have no time at all, keep these things in your pantry, and you can make guacamole like in 5 minutes. If you've got the avocados, you have to have the avocados, obviously. But
I'm into that.
Okay. But I think it's like those are really important things, and I think that far too often, when people are talking about tacos and guacamole and margaritas, they're doing it from a really American perspective. And first of all, that's disrespectful to the cuisine that has developed all of these things. But mostly what you're missing is the opportunity to experience a different flavor profile, which for me is really, really important. And we have a tendency in the US to think that we know everything. And so I'm going to teach you how to make the best pad thai, and I'm going to teach you how to make the best mushu pork or whatever it might be. And they always come out tasting like they were made by Americans. And so my thing is that since I was taught by people in Mexico how to cook all this food, I just want to share that. And hopefully in sharing that, not only will you go away with something really delicious to make, but you'll also go away with this really great and hopefully slightly profound appreciation for the culture that created it. So it's, to me, really an important thing to keep the spotlight where the spotlight is necessary.
Do you have time for 2 more quick questions or topics?
I do.
Okay, the first thing I'm curious about here is you're a great speaker. You found success being on television and writing beyond being in the kitchen, beyond being the restaurateur. Were you always able to give talks and classes, or is that something that you had to learn how to do and get better at? In other words, your first cooking class, were you kind of going, put it in the pan? Was it that bad and awkward?
So here's the deal. Okay, so I came up through theater, and I was always really interested in using that in some way because I like being in front of a crowd. Okay, and when I decided, I was in graduate school in anthropology and linguistics, and I thought my path was going to be one of academics, and then sort of lots of things in my life changed at one point, and I was working on PhD dissertation, and I just said, I'm going to put this away for a little bit, and I'm going to follow my other passion, which is I'm going to see what I can do in food. I grew up in a barbecue restaurant, so I'd always cooked, but cooked professionally and personally. I loved cooking, and so I just decided to devote 1 year to see what I could do, and there was a cookware store in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I was going to school at University of Michigan, and I convinced them that I could teach cooking classes. And so I started teaching cooking classes, and what I all of a sudden realized is that I can talk and cook at the same time, and that I loved telling stories, stories that about the history of the dishes, and about like if I was teaching a barbecue class, that I would teach about like the way we did it in my family's restaurant, and what the history of all of that was. And I liked putting food in context, and because I think you appreciate it so much more when you know something about it. It becomes less of a thumbs up, thumbs down thing, which I hate. It's like I think it's better to actually have somebody say, this is the way that we make this is the way we like it, and now I'm going to present it to you, and you can interact with it. But it's more of like interacting with it. It's not like saying, oh, I like this, I don't like this, or whatever. It's like that food is much more powerful than that. And so I learned right away. And so in that first year, all of a sudden I was getting calls from other places saying, oh, we want you to teach cooking classes in our place. And so for what turned out to be 2.5 years, I made my entire living by teaching cooking classes. They weren't at professional cooking schools. These were in cookware stores, sometimes in department stores. I mean, I would take any gig that somebody would give me. There was a continuing education thing at University of Toledo, and so the next thing I knew, I was involved in running that program. And so it's like it was just natural for me. And then the next thing I knew, I was on TV, and I was on the morning shows around Detroit, and people were like, oh man, this guy can cook and talk and tell stories and all that sort of stuff. And so it came really natural to me, and I really loved it. And so I did a 26-part series for public television really, really early, back in the late 70s. And then I didn't go back to that again for a long time. And I said, this time, if I'm going to do it, I'm not just going to tell stories, I'm going to show people. And so when we started Mexico One Plate at a Time, it was because we got the funding to be able to really take people to Mexico. So every show was half shot in Mexico. And that, to me, was the hallmark of that show. That was the opportunity to really take people into to look at the culture through my eyes, of course, but to really actually be there and see it. And I love telling that story.
Awesome answer. I didn't know 99% of that, so thank you for that. And the last thing I want to know, I just realized I'm wearing a Cabo Wabo shirt. Coincidentally.
I can't see it. It's framed out of what I'm looking at now. But I would have mentioned something about that if I had seen it.
Well, that's the last thing I was curious about. Do you happen to be a Van Halen fan? Because Mexican cuisine has kind of evolved into Sammy Hagar winds up being the fourth or fifth thing always said because of the success of his spirits and the mezquila that him and Guy Fieri launched and all that. So random question. It's fine if the answer is, yeah, I know the hits and that's it.
I know the hits and that's it, man. I'm actually, you have to know this about me. I'm really not much of a supporter of celebrity brands of tequila and mezcal, only because I know the people who have done it for generations and generations in Mexico, and it seems a little bit of moving into appropriation there for me. So it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite thing, even though some of the products are really good. I guess I'd rather line the pockets of the people who have been doing it for generations, something like that.
And the trick that I learned related to that is that there's the serial number on the bottom of the tequila bottle.
Correct.
Which tells you where it was made.
Right.
So you know if it was really a family or is that celebrity. And odds are it was the family who was like that to the
well, and because of the way that tequila is set up, one distillery can be making lots of different labels. And but the thing is that what you don't know is how that particular one was made, because they could be cutting corners, they could be adding things to it. There's all different kinds of things that could be, even though it's coming from a distillery, you have to kind of look at the distillery and say, okay, what are they producing? Are they only producing sort of top shelf tequilas? And if they're producing top shelf tequilas, then the likelihood is that even though it may be a celebrity brand, it's still going to be really good because they wouldn't just produce one thing that was crappy or something like that.
Totally.
But if you look at that gnome and you go to the site and they're making 50 different things and a lot of it just seems like grocery store stuff that could be made really cheaply, then you don't know what the quality is that you have in that bottle.
Well said.
So,
I am not going to be able to top that one. I thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to your masterclass. Looking forward to trying this new spot at 25th and Broadway, and just keep it up, Rick. Such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was really fun to talk to you. I really appreciate your questions and the engagement that you have. I really appreciate it a lot.
Paltrocast.